The psoas muscles are considered both an abdominal muscle. They are your main movement muscles, and they are considered both an abdominal muscle and a lordotic muscle, a back muscle. So you're absolutely right that, and people have been doing a lot. I mean, I've worked with a person who worked with me many years here, and then she moved to Florida. So we do Zoom lessons, and she really had quite an issue uh, because she was sitting so much. She was playing bridge and all of this, and everything was just this sort of collapsing down, down into the chair, and so that stops the flow of that. Um, Hermine, I have to say, your voice is so much stronger tonight than it's ever been in this class when
Yeah,
you've
I'm very
done.
glad to hear that. I don't necessarily notice that myself.
Right. I hear it. I hear the resonance and I hear the connection throughout. Wonderful.
Oh, that's
Anything else on anyone's mind before we get started? Anything? Well, if something comes up, remember, I'm getting good at writing chat comments, so we like that. I promised that I would show something a few weeks ago, and then I forgot because we had our week break. And um, this little clip that I'm going to show you, and maybe next week we'll do the Antonio Banderas and something else, but it's of Errol Garner, and Errol Garner was an absolutely great pianist. I joke with people and I say, if you ask a jazz musician who he would rather be, Errol Garner or God, there would be no contest. It would be Errol Garner. And he was completely self-taught and just total joy. And why I want to show it to you, and I'm going to show you two things. One will be, and I think I have to take out my AirPods for this, so bear with me while I do this, because I'm not sure you'll hear it well. If I don't, then I'll put them back in. So that should, can you all hear me now? Yeah. Maybe I don't need them all, but sometimes I think it gives a better recording. So what I'm going to show you is first Errol Garner just walking on stage, because it shows so beautifully how the earth carries him. And he was a very, very small man. Let me see if I can get this. There it is. He was a very small man, and he used to sit on phone books. And they asked him, they said, what phone book do you sit on? He said, the New York City phone book, because it's so huge. Do any of you remember? I mean, this is really dating us all, but remember how big those phone books were? I remember we used to use them in Alexander training, and they were wonderful too for people. If they were sitting on the floor, they would sit on this phone book, this big thick New York City phone book, and they could get them right on their sits bones. But we don't have that anymore. So here we go. I think you can all hear pretty well. I'm just going to bring it back, then I'm going to move it on. I'm just going to show you that. And now I'll take you to something that we know pretty well. This is two pieces from My Fair Lady. He's in London here. This is live in 1964, I think. And this is live in London. And okay, so it's just a little bit end of this. You all hear well? I'm just, gang, bear with me here. I just want to check my audio in case I can get this external speaker a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So, how is that for letting music play you?
Amazing.
Amazing. The joy of that, just the wholeness of it, and the fun, total fun, just total life. Um, can you imagine how hot that was? That's, it's always hot in England now, especially with these heat waves, and there's no air conditioning. Can you imagine? Uh, but the reason why I showed it to you is that he's living every second the music. He's not thinking of playing the music. Cool, huh? Any observations from anyone? Yeah, everyone's smiling. Isn't that fun? It makes us very happy. It's, yes, what a humming being for sure. It makes us see when you're living this inside yourself, your audience gets that. I mean, all of us, I'm sure we were just sitting there in awe, of course, but also smiling because we just got so completely enlivened by it. Um, can you all hear me okay, or should I put these back on? Do I need to? You think so? Yeah. Yell at me if just say we can't hear you if you can't. So I thought today, as I said, we do some lying down work to just sort of how do we work? Well, the thing about Errol Garner and all these greats is that they're living something, and it's a state of being that you enter into. That's really the best way that you can say it. It's just a state of being. And for our purposes, let's talk physiology and what Hermine had said earlier about the psoas muscles. It's alignment. It's being Mary just wrote, it's a humming being. It's being in that inner alignment. And lying down work is really very helpful in that for many, many reasons. First, I show you our little skeleton. That why we do, and especially in Alexander, why we do, we'll get his leg out of there, why we do lying down work is so that it gives us sort of standing alignment. It helps people understand what a standing alignment is, which means nothing to us, really, when people say that. But really, what it is just to notice the length of the spine, and then it goes up to the bridge of the nose. So your whole, if we're seated comfortably erect on our sits bones, just like the skeleton, you start to get that understanding of what that through line is all the way up. What are things that get in the way and throw this off kilter? This thing, the looking in to try to see, the looking in to try to feel. That is the biggest trap there is. And who amongst us has not come at it from that way, right? This sort of thing of looking in, trying to see, trying to feel. We've talked about this a lot in class, how it disconnects us from the engagement of those inner muscles, which really is our birthright to have that engagement. So that's what we're going to play around with a little bit today. And also just how do you stimulate when you're lying down? How do you use your hands? Really using your hands are the best way to get something going. I think it's very profound to use hands because it says to your body, mind, whatever you want to call it, right? That I know what I want. My muscles may not be sensitive enough yet, they not be strong enough yet, but I can encourage the right thing to happen with my hands. The power of touch, so powerful. You're molding and shaping yourself. I am going to do this just because when I lie down, I'm afraid it'll be too far away. So 1 second. So if you want to do this along with me, lying down on the floor, that's completely fine. If you just want to watch and think about doing it, that's fine too. But let me just get these. I think we're good. So as I roll down, you don't have to do it like this. I just want to show you just so that you're aware. I'm letting the psoas move me down. That's why I could continue to speak to you as I did that. So that I don't want you to, don't try that at home. But I just wanted to show you that's an illustration for you of how those deep core inner muscles that go to the, they go to the lumbar spine. As I said to Hermine, it's considered both a lordotic, a back muscle, the psoas muscles, and an abdominal muscle. One of my students sent over a picture of two basketball players lying down on the ground when they had after a play, and both of them had their heads like this. And I said, how terrific that is. It's so indicative of our work. That's the psoas muscles holding up my head, but the rest of my body is completely free. The psoas muscles will influence the outer muscles of the body, but I'm not gripping my outer muscles to hold up my head. It's quite fascinating to me how that works. And you see it in athletes all the time. So now the very beginning part of the work, which is so crucial, how do you bring up your leg? Because we want to lengthen the lumbar spine. So we want to bring our legs up. Do we just, a lot of times people get down on the floor and they just, do something like that. But we want to be mindful because everything we do here contributes to our understanding of the integration of the torso, of the muscles, and how it influences our state of mind, our state of being. Sorry, I see people come in and then I have to get up and do it. So how do we drop? Well, the very first thing you can do as you're doing lying down work is hands around the ribs and notice your rib cage with your hands and really greet it, have a sense that, whoa, I've got this open thing here. It's open because the diaphragm is inside this and is keeping me round and open. So just, a little hello there, round rib cage. And now we're going to drop the leg. And if you're really drawing it from the psoas, it will trigger a beautiful reflexive inhalation. Feels quite blissful. It just feels quite wonderful. You know what? That is just perfect work for your breathing. That's all you did. You'd start to understand flow of time because the psoas muscles are the flow of time muscles. Ah, and the other one. Now, let me show you different ways. I just showed you the herky jerky method, but we can go in another wrong direction, which is the trying to feel for the right thing direction, which becomes painstakingly slow. And I'm drawing at my leg, trying to feel for something. That's not it. It's a clarity of intention. Another way you could think about it is something is here drawing up your leg. You could put your hands here too and just acknowledge. As you do it, can it remain pliable? It's another good teacher, good indication that you're in the right muscles. You're not gripping with the outer muscles of the body. And then there you are. And you start your massage. Soft, soft. Feels wonderful to be soft in the belly. It won't be when you're standing. That's why it's good to do breathing work lying down, because when you're standing, other muscles are involved to help you with postural support. Even though the psoas muscles are the main postural support muscles, it influences other muscles. But when you're lying down, you can really feel how everything falls into the back. The diaphragm falls in the back, the psoas muscles lengthen, and you get very gaunt in the belly. Everything sort of moves in. Don't try to do it, but you should enjoy your softness. Give yourself a little massage especially here in the midriff, that area. And that tends to get very hard in people. If the diaphragm is weak, it will feel hard. In my experience, too, people who are diabetic, there's little hyperventilation that often comes with it, and the diaphragm is weak. So it will feel hard. It will have slipped down below the ribs. But all of that can shift, and you're doing it right now with this massage. Go around to the costal arch. You know what that is, right? That's here. And with your fingertips, can you sort of go inside it a little bit? Feels like we play doctor here, right? But we're just going inside. Can we let our fingers go in a little bit? That's going to show you the tone of the diaphragm. If the diaphragm sits up in the rib cage, it's sort of easy to do that, to put the fingers in. I hope you can see it. Maybe I should sit and show you that you're sort of going in like that, inside the ribs. See, my fingers are there. That's just an indication that the diaphragm is staying here. People who have weakened diaphragms, you can't do that. It's going to push against you. So again, I'm just letting the psoas roll me down. So you're doing that on both sides. You're just giving yourself a little help here. So we're going to start with our hiss. So we think to ourselves, what goes on? What is that about? What is it that I'm working on as I do this thing called a hiss? Well, I know now that you're not doing it, you're not pushing from the mouth. Somebody asked me, I'm doing a Saturday workshop for jazz voice, and one of the singers talked about using a straw. And I said, I know that that's a commonly given tool, but if you're using a straw and blowing into the straw, you're actually weakening the diaphragm. You're bearing down on the diaphragm to do it. So see, it's, you really have to understand what is going on here. It's the same thing if you were to think of making a hiss. It would be in you'd be doing it up here, a doing, and it would bear down on the diaphragm. So we don't want that. What is the physiology? Here is the art. There is an intention, a need to express that is unconscious, basically. Throughout all of nature, it is found in these amazing core muscles of the body, the psoas muscles. Just like they're the time muscles, they are desire to express our want, our need, our drinking in, our embrace. They communicates to the diaphragm, and the diaphragm therefore gets engaged and sustains the flow of air out of your lungs, out through your mouth. You don't have to make hiss. The unconscious, the intention, all of that knows how to do that extremely well. You have to stop yourself from thinking it's you doing it. I put a little pressure here I'll put my leg down here, and I say, this is a motor. This is the thing that is going to communicate to my diaphragm. And similar to like putting a foot on a gas pedal, and everyone make sure you're muted too. So it's very interesting. I think that that's a good thing to use. Your foot is on the gas pedal, right? Your hands are like your foot. Your hands are getting drawn in. And actually, you'll be amazed at how far they get drawn in if you're staying here and not an idea of hiss. That is going to communicate to the diaphragm. The reason your hands keep sinking in is the diaphragm is rising and the psoas muscles are lengthening. That's why it's fun to do things where you're not demanding too much from the diaphragm. By that I mean if you do things voiced like we'll do in a moment, the voiced hiss, you're demanding more from the diaphragm. But you can really learn a lot about the body and a lot about the movement of the diaphragm and intention by doing things that are voiceless. And then you ask yourself, were you looking in to see it? Because if you were looking in to see it, you'll be disconnected from your hands. Or were you so focused in mind that you were just staying with your hands and the upward flow of something coming up to you? Let's do it one more time. Then we'll put our hands other places. The end of that, you see, it goes only so far. You let go, and you should feel a great spring in your rib cage. And it should surprise you, and you should like it, right? It's fun to feel a spring happen without your helping it. It's really, I think, a wonderful way to work, to use your hands and say, my hands are doing everything. Let's go here. Let's go to the ribs. And you're just going to do like we do a little tiny bit of stretch, really. I mean, that's your intention. You're stretching the rib cage as the diaphragm rises. Don't go on over long. Your hands literally are sustaining the upward flow of air. That's the whole thing. It's your hands sustaining the upward flow of air. What your hands are doing, you're putting pressure on the diaphragm. You're stimulating the diaphragm to rise and send out a stream of air. Rising, meaning pressing on the lungs to get rid of the air. Because this is important, I am going to just look at chat. Yes, the spring, Linda writes, this spring of the ribs is incredibly felt when you're lying down. Yeah, I think, this is an aside, but it's an important aside. When we're standing, it's fraught, especially doing something on Zoom. I think this is the benefit of the hands-on work and doing Alexander work, that it helps people understand how to get up out of their legs. But in general, when we're standing, it's very tempting without us even knowing that this is happening to collapse down in the legs, and then you don't feel the good things happening. That's why it's so great to do it lying down. So just that, you're putting a little pressure on the diaphragm. You can't feel the diaphragm. You can feel the ribs with your hands. See, and your hands do all the work. So there's going to come a point where that's it for that diaphragm rising. And that's what you respect about your body. It's not like, I can continue it, I can keep going. No, your hands are doing the work. Let me just quickly.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure can.
So on the inhale, do you feel your hands kind of expanded by your ribs? And then as you exhale, you kind of feel it, I don't know, almost like wings kind of, closing and pressing up. Is that how you think about it?
I think that um, absolutely. When the inhalation happens, the reflexive inhalation, if you just feel it, and this is what's happening in the back a little bit, this is the spine, right? They're like bucket handles and they open like that. In the exhalation, what they do is the rib cage is going to stretch, the ribs stretch down and fold along the diaphragm as the diaphragm is rising. So our hands are sort of just doing that a little bit. I mean, we're implying with our hands that stretch. and that's what stimulates the diaphragm. So there is this wonderful sense of that going on. You know what? That it's probably a very wise thing since you bring it up. Who was it that just asked that?
Sam.
Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hey.
Um, s- bear with me. I want to show you this because I think it's important. We haven't looked at it in a long time, um, and I can get it up quite quickly. Okay. Um, so this is from Carl Stau's film, The Diaphragm in Motion. And we'll just look at the movement of the ribs here as the diaphragm rises in exhalation, and then I'll play it. It's on a loop, so it's a very short little thing, but I'll play it a few times. There's no sound. So that's exhalation. You see the psoas here, and inhalation. And exhalation, these are the psoas muscles. You see the diaphragm here is rising. You see the diaphragm inside rising, this tremendous potential to stretch of the ribs. The tendonous attachment of the diaphragm to the ribs. Look at the shoulder blades descending. Inhalation. Sternum rises slightly. This is exhalation. Right. So that should help a tiny bit to know what we're going for. Sam, does that help at all?
It does. The looking at that video, the thing that always got me is I always had, any voice teachers I worked with, they always kind of talked about almost like you have to coordinate. I don't want to imply the time of breathing coordination as you understand it, but the coordination they explained was always almost like a chain reaction, how you slowly have to start low and come up. And it's like looking at that video, it feels like something got lost in translation where it just looks like one big movement, So I just wonder, yeah, because that's what it feels like. And I keep finding myself almost like subconsciously being like, no, like start here, move up. And then sometimes, like, especially right then on the ground, all of a sudden it just felt like a big pump.
Oh, that is absolutely great. So watch my torso for a moment because I love it that you had that realization. That is terrific. So here I am talking, 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 talking. Zzz. So you see how, notice especially how it's just like, just as you say, it is a coordinated movement of all the muscles involved in breathing. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it looks so pretty to me when I'm working with a student to see the whole rise of this whole thing, internally do like that. And I think that that is what you want. Now, I want to say something. I know I'm jumping around, but sometimes, and I've said this to you all, but I haven't said it in a while. If I'm working with a student and they're on the table, I will sometimes, and I see that they are very, usually this happens, they're very in their heads, and it's okay, right, at the beginning. And so as a result of that, there's just the ballooning of the belly in breathing. That's all you see, right? So I want them to get an understanding that there is a fullness of inspiration, that it just rises up in a way, right? We rise up to breathe, right? We open up to be breathed. So I will put my hand, they'll be on their backs. I will put my hand right here between their shoulder blades. And I will say, let the breath, let the inhalation initiate from between the shoulder blades. And amazingly, saying that, and with my hand there, of course, encouraging something, right? I mean, my direction is there with the hand between the shoulder blades. that coordinates all the muscles. And then I might even say, go higher, go higher. Uh-uh, it doesn't stop there. Allow it, and it's very interesting because, and I'll send you all something, you'll see it work with the student on the table, where I literally say to her, let it go higher, because people want to stop it. And I think part of the wanting to stop the inhalation is looking at it and a little bit of fear of letting the throat open and letting the whole breath rise up. So you might want to just think about that. Um, See, it goes all the way up, all the way. This feeling of just this uh, opening up underneath the armpits, opening up in the throat, opening up in the face. Everything just opens to breathe. So hands here on the hiss. Now we're going to do voiced. That's going to be harder for you, for everyone, right? Because you're demanding so much more from the diaphragm. And the moment we talk about voicing something, it's tempting to go into the throat to try to make the sound rather than the integration of these muscles. But you can do it. And I would suggest a couple of things, that you think about the hands here being drawn in, 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 as though there's a great magnet inside of you. And you're going to feel how so much more of your musculature gets engaged when you demand from the diaphragm to sustain air pressure in the lungs, to vibrate the vocal cords. And you have to think of it like that, because if you think about voice, my voice, sound, you will always be in the throat and not in the body. So once again, it's intention. But feel with your hands how much more gets engaged when you demand. A nice place to go is the sternum. Do a little bit of inward pressure and make sure you're saying to yourself, that is what is sustaining the air pressure in my lungs to vibrate my vocal cords. But I would, if you're, doing things lying down, I might experiment for sure with going into sound. But spend a lot of time just with getting the diaphragm to move, getting that flow of air. Then you can do it on your whispered counts, the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, that's when you can feel the softness. You can put the fingertips underneath the costal arch. So, you're really getting good stuff going just by doing the voiceless. You're getting wonderful things going. That is going to help you then when you go to your voice counts. I would use the hands here, very helpful in the voice counts. That little bit of stretch against the rising diaphragm is going to give you your understanding of support. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Be conservative. Then you feel the spring. 2 counts of 10 plus 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you just want to, at this stage, feel the reflexive inhalation. You want to feel the spring of everything. Try 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You still can feel your softness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you still feel softness? Can you still put your fingertips underneath your rib cage? If you can't, you do not worry about it, but you stop. You don't go beyond what um, doesn't keep that fluidity, that freedom, that softening of the muscles. And I think this is a good place. I think this is an excellent place to determine that with the fingertips underneath the ribs when you're lying down. The moment you would feel a downward thrust, you would stop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, you want to, in that reflexive inhalation, feel every part of you opening, the sternum, the underneath the armpits, everything stretches and opens. So you really become very aware of your muscles, the intercostal muscles, which is very different from pulling the breath. I mean, you're just aware that you've got an elastic rib cage and it can open in every direction. Um, I think it's really fun. I think it takes you in hand, yourself in hand, and there's nothing better. You really own this work then because you're feeling what's going on in your body. You can't feel it by looking in. This doesn't work. You can't, but you can feel it with your hands. And don't forget that little bit. You could think of, you know, my hand being underneath you or something, and just saying, let breath initiate from here. You can do it even when you're standing. I feel a tremendous, when I do that, you know, I know Alexander's lengthening and widening, the lengthening and widening of the back, because I sure feel that. I feel a lengthening on my back and I feel a widening across my shoulders. And that, you know, so play with that. You could do that right now. Put a hand there. Don't try to inhale. You know, you're just permitting. It's a powerful stimulation. It should also feel very relaxing to you. It does me. If I do that too long, I'll forget. I'm teaching a class. I don't want to do that. So now we stand and we try and see if we can carry some of these things over while we're standing. And that's really what you want to do after you've practiced it. Lying down, you want to say, well, can I do this? So remember, what's the important thing? We stand and earth rises up to support us. We really have to think that way because gravity, that's what the role of gravity is for us. We are built with gravity in mind. So gravity is going to stimulate those postural muscles, those psoas muscles. We have to help with them. We have to bring awareness to it. And it's, you know, because it is always working. Clearly, we're all upright. But we can be upright and like this too. And then nothing's going to happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I start to grab for breath. So everything is depressed inside my body. But here, and how do you know you have it? Well, you can get bounced. As you get bounced, that's a great release too. And if you're under stress, let yourself get bounced. It's not you, right? You would be this, which would all be a down and heavy. No, it's Errol Garner letting the music play him. Really, we're letting the earth bounce us. So when you feel tense in your muscles, let yourself do this. You're not doing it, it's doing you. That's what it feels like to come from the psoas muscles. When we come from coordination, it feels like we're being done to rather than doing. Let's do a whispered counts of 10. And remember, very, very important. Just a physiological review here. It is what Sarah was saying earlier about all of a sudden her nemesis roll became much easier. The words were just coming out. What happens is as we start to build strength in the diaphragm, there's a speed of air, speed of breath, which articulates the words. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Speed of air. Powerful, energetic motor that is going to talk to the diaphragm, jazz the diaphragm, ignite the diaphragm. And you will feel every muscle, you'll feel your diaphragm, you'll feel your intercostal, you'll feel everything very stretched from it. Not you doing it doing it. Then you go to the whisper counts with that same energy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't be overlong. Don't let me ever push you. Maybe let's put fingers here. Not going to feel quite the same as lying down. You can still imply the right thing, diaphragm rising. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, just what I was saying to Sam. I mean, it's that opening like that in the back. One more. Let's do the stretch. Diaphragm's going to rise like this, ribs like the video, stretch down and fold around the diaphragm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And maybe some of you are even feeling as you do it your three-dimensionality, that you're aware, even though you can't feel it, but something starts to come into mind a little bit about the roundness of that diaphragm inside your rib cage. So you can almost feel it in the back, everything just stretching. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, let's go into our little humming being. Num, 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 num. And my new favorite way of talking about this is less the although we could try that. I don't know if we have. You're tasting something quite delicious. I like to talk about this next part is the NG hung like we did. Na 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 na. It really starts to open up those nasal pharyngeal resin. And there's such ease about it. It's not, you're not trying to do something. It's just fun. It's just opening up. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's all it is. India was talking about it last week, the opening up. A cicada. Yes, I haven't heard any cicadas around here. Maybe we're too urban. I don't know. Yeah, 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 yeah. Be very light with it. It's really quite fun to sort of go here, right? There's no effort. There's no effort. It's an art. Yes, yes, yes. It's an extension of our how are you today? 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 See, there's just a freedom and a freedom and a freedom because of. Then we take that hum into, because we always have to sustain that. That's our physiology. We can't get thrown off, although it's very hard at first. We do get thrown off. We want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We want to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's all just hum. So you practice that. That's your integration. It really is. There's a simplicity to it. I know it's hard to get there, but once you begin to taste it a little bit, go around like that during the day. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Animated body, energized body. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the constant movement, 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 movement of breath? And you've trained your body, you've trained your muscles simply from doing the hiss and the whisper counts without demanding the voice part. And then you look at the progression. Then you've gone to your my, so good, delicious, oh, and then all playful things that you can do. Open, 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 open. Yeah, 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 yeah. So, 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 so. And what happens when you have gotten to this place of integration? It lives like Errol Garner in your cells. The wholeness of it lives in your cells. So you would not be tempted to do, although you might be, and it's okay, to do so, 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 so. You might be tempted to try to imitate it by doing instead of living. So, 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 so. So all of that is just the movement of the air. That is what's making my words. It is not me making my words. So another fun way of practicing. Find the fun in things. Find the playfulness, the silliness, the joy. It really is great. I mean, the play muscles are found here. And really, truly, they are. And we spend so much time trying to worry. We worry so much about getting something right instead of, I'm just going to experiment. And I think that that's what's nice about doing the lying down work. You're just experimenting. You're being like every great scientist, you're using yourself. So, here we go. So, 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 so 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 Five, four, three, two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All we're doing is da da dee 5 down to 1, back up to 5, down to 1. What is going to help you? I was thinking of what Sarah said earlier about the bedevilment of Joel Jordan. I was thinking about that as we were doing our sows, and then of doing this, of if you are letting just the air move up, the air moves into your mouth, you will not have a problem remembering that sequence. It is amazing how that works. It is amazing how that works. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tiada pipa pita papa pada papa pa. Yeta tita pada to dada papa pa. Yeta pita papa tita papa papa pa. Yada pipa pita papa pada da da da. Yeta tita 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 tita. That's all it is. That's what we have to feel in ourselves. Tiada tita 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 tita. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tiara pita pita papa pada papa pa. Yappa pita pita da 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 da. Yappa pita pita da 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 da. So you're living music. You're living that G to D to D to D to D to D to D. You live that rather than try to sing that because you couldn't do that. D to D D D D D D D D D D D. I mean, sort of, but it doesn't sound great, does it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It sings itself. And I think that that's really the essence of everything here. Just like Errol Garner played him, it sings itself. Wow, what a great practice it is, right? Best meditation in the world, right? Because we have to stay so present with what is and staying in a process of something. Did I tell you last week? Maybe I did. I'm sorry if I'm repeating my stories, but we were watching the dog agility trials. I think I told you this. And, where the dogs are running through, going over jumps and going through tubes and doing an obstacle course and all of this. And the border collie was the most accurate and the fastest. And the commentator said everything was forward, meaning that everything, he was just in that place like we are just now with that. So it is a great practice for us in, are we trying to sing it? Are we up here and grabbing for breath and nervous and everything? Or can we stay rooted and, da da pita dita pa 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 da pa 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 Ba da ba ba bee da ba 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 da ba ba ba. Roll, Jordan, roll. Roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. Oh, brothers, you ought to have been there. Yes, my Lord. I'm sitting in the kingdom to hear Jordan roll. Roll, Jordan, roll. Roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. See, heaven when I die, heaven when I die, heaven when I die. It's all that. Couldn't do heaven when I die. Couldn't do that. So see, we're living it. It's getting into us. We're letting everything in our cells, psoas communicates to diaphragm, and it does the work. Let me just turn my clock over so I'm aware of the time. We'll do this, and we'll do our How Are You Todays. To heaven when I die, to hear Jordan roll. Here we go. Roll, Jordan, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. Brothers, brothers, you're to remember. Yes, my Lord, I'll sing in the kingdom to hear Jordan roll. Roll, Jordan, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. Preachers. Yes, my Lord, sitting in the kingdom to hear Jordan roll. Roll, Jordan, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. Sinners, oh sinners, you're to remember. Yes, my Lord, I'm sitting in the kingdom to hear Jordan roll. Now let's do one time on mums. Mum, 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 mum. Which is really almost like a complete sustained hum, isn't it? And you could probably feel tremendous engagement of those inner muscles as you do it, especially in this key. So let's do it again, then we'll put the words to it. Where do you feel it? Do you feel it up in here? That would be correct, right? It's just like we did earlier with our hum and our NG hum. Now, when you let the words come, notice how I said that, let the words come, you want to stay attuned to that. Your ear stays attuned to the hum. You don't get lost in the idea of singing the song or saying the words. Hear the music that rides above it, just like we do our counts. Roll, Jordan, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. Preachers. Yes, my Lord, I'll sit in the kingdom to hear Jordan roll. Roll, Jordan, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. Sinners. Roll, Jordan, roll, Jordan, roll. I want to go to heaven when I die to hear Jordan roll. Let's go down. And as we do Wade in the Water and we do it on the hum, I want you just to think about you're drawing in, you're drinking something in. Very lightly, very gently. Let's do it one more. Step up. As we get higher, you'll feel it more engaged in your body. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble. God's gonna trouble the water. Remember one thing that's certainly sure. Remember one thing and it's certainly sure. Wade in the water. Judgment's coming. I don't know. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. You can do mums. In the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Remember one thing. Remember one thing, and it's certainly sure. Wade in the water. Judgment's coming. I don't know. Wade in the water. If you can. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. God's gonna trouble the water. It's so interesting to play that game with yourself of making your ear hear the hum. Does that make sense to you that your ear is going to hear the hum part of it rather than what I think happens is that we try to sing the song with a word? No, as we know, speech is a reflex. I always say that, but maybe you're appreciating it even more tonight. That we don't need to do anything to make the word, it functions as a reflex. But it's very interesting to sort of feel in your own psychology, in your own being, if you go to the word to try to sing the song with the word and worry about the sound of your voice rather than hearing the music. I think that that's a great leap in our maturity as an artist when we can give up this idea of our voice singing it and rather living the music, hearing it rides above. It's very interesting. And you play with that, you figure that out. And Martha, I think that's Martha writes, I was imagining the hum as like a river flowing through the air and through my head. So it wasn't something I was doing. It was just sort of letting the hum pass through me. It really helped. I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it because I often say it's like a river, right? It's a river that runs through everything. That's sustaining of the hum. It is very helpful. So, random notes. How are you today? How are you today? How are you today? See how good you're getting? How are you today? 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 See, that's what we call the break in the voice, the passaggio. It's an E for those of you who are interested. But you don't have to do anything for it if you're hearing it correctly, if you're hearing the ear. How are you today? 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 Sorry, my fault. How are you today? Everyone make sure you're on mute. How are you today? 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 Now we're really getting to those resonators where we live, where we want to live. How are you today? How are are you today? How 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 are you today? See, there's nothing you need to do. It's just there. How are you today? 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 I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. How are you today? I am very, very well. Could we do it? How are you today? I am very, very well. Can we do it here? If I can play it. How are you today? I am very, very well. How about up here? How are you today? I am very, very well. How about here? How are you today? I am very, very well. How about here? How are you today? I am very, very well. See how the genius of the body, right? The genius of the neurophysiology of all this voice business is that your ear is going to do the work. You don't have to, oh, where's that pitch? Oh, I got to try to match the pitch. The ear does it, and there's a spontaneity to it. Of course, it takes that to do it. So, fun. We've never really done it quite like that. I think that is great. But let's do our old one. Let's skip around with this one. La 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 la. La 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 la. This is a final exam. Because this exercise, or it's not an exercise, it's a Palestinian folk dance actually. And it can go at rote so easy. It is rote like that, and people go on, and I wonder if they're ever going to take a breath. And then it's going mindlessly singing the song. And we want to make something of it. We have to stay, this is why it's another excellent practice for keeping present. We have to stay present with it all the time. One wonderful way of practicing, as we do everything, is the speaking of it. Can we live it right now, or do we do la 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 la? That would be a teacher for you. You're in your throat. You're trying to do it instead of feeling it. La 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 la. And how fascinating. If you are here, which communicates the diaphragm, it moves your tongue and it makes la. Now that's pretty cool, isn't it? How that works, how that body of ours works. You can step aside from yourself and notice that. You know, some of you still might be doing la la la, you still might be trying to do it rather than the energy of those inner muscles doing the work for you. La 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 la. Best teacher you will ever, 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 ever have is your ability to speak something and live time and live the music in every cell of your body. You know, otherwise the temptation, if I say to people, speak it, they will do la 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 la. Not musically incorrect, it's the beats are in the right place, but they're not living the music as they do it. La 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 la. It energizes you. That's how you self-energize. So we're going to stay present with this whole time. Live each phrase. I think it's nice for us how we do it. La 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 la, and then we renew. La 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 la. It's almost like we ask a question here. La 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 la, and then you answer it. La 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 la. La 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 la. Tell me something more. La 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 la. And what else? La 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 la. So let's do it like that. Question, answer. Tell me something. Something more? You have another secret? Okay. La 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 la. Answer. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Drop out when you need to. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Let's skip. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Or maybe we have three different people, and one sings, then another sings, and then another sings in those last three lines. Question. La 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 la. Answer. La 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 la. Singer one. La 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 la. Singer two. La 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 la. Singer three. La la la. All together. La la la. That's what we'll do. Question, answer. Singer one, two, three. All together. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Final one. Question, answer, singer one, two, three, all together. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Can you go right into He's got the whole world? He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. And that's another great little tool. Can you live it like that and let it open your mouth? Like I just showed it, and no, the sound did not cut out. It's not making any sound. See, you're living the music and it's doing the work. It's opening up the mouth. But if I was intellectual about it, you wouldn't get anything. But the other is so different, isn't it? And if you heard he's got the little bitty baby, you were right. That was it. So in his hands he's got the whole wide world. We answer. In his hands he's got the whole world. We answer. In his hands he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the sun and moon. He's got the sun and moon. We answer. In his hands he's got the sun and moon. In his hands he's got the sun and moon. In his hands he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the land and sea. He's got the land and sea. Where? In his hands he's got the land and sea. In his hands he's got the land and sea. In his hands he's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the earth and sky. He's got the earth and sky in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, sister. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got you and me, sister, in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got you and me, brother. He's got you and me, brother. Where? In his hands. He's got you and me, brother. In his hands. He's got you and me, brother. In his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. Let's go down to here. Final time. And we're in awe and we're in wonder. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. See, it can be anything. I think that sometimes what gets in people's way so much is I want my voice to be loud, as though there's some prize for that. But there's never a prize for that. It's just pushing, basically, without intention. And sometimes, I try to cover my annoyance in a lesson, and somebody would say that to me, or in class, in the Open Center class. I remember years ago, and there was a student, she ended up studying with me privately, and I thought she was so great and so sensitive. And then one day she said, but, I want to be able to belt like Melissa Etheridge, and I don't think this is good. And it just really floored me because I thought, why? What is that about? Is that about living something, communicating the song, touching something profound and something deep, or is it all about I got to have a big voice? That doesn't communicate. You always want to find the soul in everything you do. And what is the soul? I ask you in terms of the musculature. It's the psoas to the diaphragm. If you're not living something, it will not communicate to your diaphragm. It just will not. It is physiology. So we have a huge responsibility to be living it all the time, to live everything we do. Otherwise, that diaphragm is not going to respond, and then you will be just pushing. Let us gather about in our remaining few minutes just to answer any questions, or I'd love to hear some of your observations. India, maybe you'll share. I know you wrote something on the chat, but maybe you'll share with us.
Would you like me to share now? Did you
Yeah,
say?
why not? That's great.
Okay. I was just making sure, because I still have that in my head about wanting to just be louder, or really wanting to be Janis Joplin. I always use her as an example. But so are you saying that if you are a belter, if someone is belting, that they're not living the music, or they're not on breath, or do we just have different voices?
No, it's very much based on physiology.
That's
totally based on physiology. And,
okay.
I remember doing My Fair Lady, and my music director from Pirates of Penzance came to see me. And I played Maybelle in Pirates of Penzance. It was all very fluty and up in here. And he came to see me in My Fair Lady, and he said, Gene, I didn't know you knew how to belt like that, because I did the Just You Wait Henry Higgins. And it came out sounding like that. But it wasn't that. It was that I lived the intention of what she was going through there. And that's what it is. It's always has to be that way. Otherwise, you sound cookie cutter. And I would say, and Mary can talk about this too, I would say almost 10 times, 9.9 out of 10 times, you will be out of tune and flat, because you will be going for an effect and a sound. And all you have to do is to go to the equity auditions and sit outside the audition rooms and hear people, singing, their one legit, one belt song, and you hear the belt and it's so awful, you can barely stand it. It's so out of tune because it's being forced. Everything is this. Everything is learning about, how does this anatomy work? How does this physiology and anatomy work? And base with that, and also being an artist, basically. Sam, I know you wrote something. Do I want to look at that, or do you want to say something?
Oh, I can say it. My reason for taking the class initially had to do with loudness, but it wasn't belting. It was more that when I started recording, I never really had any training, so a lot of stuff I did ended up being really quiet. And the low notes, I could mix them easily. And then on stage, when there was bands and drums, I couldn't get the low notes to come out the PA. And then the sound, something happens where like the sound man turns it up, and then it feeds
Right.
back and all that. So I guess my reason for taking this started with loudness. So I'm just trying to kind of figure out like, where does that, how does all that fit in?
It's not loudness, it's intensity, isn't it? There can't be anything else but that. Voice is a result of air pressure in the lungs being sustained to vibrate the vocal cord. And the more you are impassioned with something, that is going through those psoas muscles and communicating to the diaphragm. And then magic happens. Magic happens. And when that strength gets developed, you opening up the head, basically, the nasopharyngeal resonators, that is what carries your voice without effort. It's very hard when you're dealing with a band and you don't have, if you have monitors, that helps somewhat, but if they're behind you, it's very, very difficult. I talked about that with somebody just the other day, about how you deal with that, and you just can't push. Just can't push. You end up losing your voice. Other observations from everyone?
Jean, this is Mary. I feel
Yeah,
like
hi, Mary.
I feel like it's very much letting the ego, getting your ego out of the way,
Right.
and
It's
just
completely that.
and not wanting to, sound like all the belters, but just sound like you telling the story. So there's learning that has to happen.
That, I think that is a very wonderful way of putting it. And you just have to, it's being true to yourself, right? Being true to something. And then I will say, from being in the business, that's how you get work, because you don't sound like everyone else. You sound like you've connected to something. And that is very compelling, instead of a generic sound that doesn't, Shakespeare said, a voice is filled with sound and fury, signifying nothing. We should have that writ large, right? Everyone that wants to have this big, voices filled with sound and fury, signifying nothing. Pretty heavy, right? Pretty heavy. Any final closing thoughts from anyone who would like to have the closing word? Somebody said something. Who's that? Oh yeah, Hillary. Hi.
For me, a lot of it's been about getting out of my head, as well as getting into my body and connecting to the world outside. So whether it's, singing from behind your eyes, or feeling the earth beneath you, or, all of it just seems to sum it up for me. So.
Well, that's pretty wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. That's really what it is. It's just a practice, right? It's just little by little by little, we get outside, and the music becomes more important than we are. The music feeds us. Terrific, wonderful work, everyone. So we have our little bonus class next week, and whether you can make it or not, you'll still get the recording. So have a wonderful week. Write me with any questions that you might have,